Okay, great. So welcome everybody and welcome Jesse. We're doing a quick just live stream where we're going to be chatting about consumer crypto and building on base with Jesse, who just came back from a honeymoon. I know he's a extremely busy person, so I appreciate his time today. I am here in Brussels at ECC, but yeah, so Jesse, you want to give us an intro and then we can kick off the discussion.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. I'm Jesse. I'm the creator of Base. I've been building in crypto for more than a decade now at this point. I started a company, dropped out of college to do that. Working with crypto companies, we were doing kind of two-factor authentication. So we worked with Bitfinex and BitMEX back in 2014. That business didn't work. That brought me into Coinbase through an acquihire. At Coinbase, I spent 5 years leading all the teams, building Coinbase, Coinbase Pro, Coinbase Wallet on the consumer side, doing all the engineering. And then after about 5.5 years of doing that, I wanted to help bring the company on chain. And so spent about a year of wandering in the desert, as I like to say, trying to figure out what that actually meant. What does it mean to bring large Fortune 500 company on chain? What does it mean to bring even a crypto company like Coinbase that's predominantly been custodial and more centralized on chain. And after a year of wandering in the desert, we found Base, and it's been about a year since Base. So we launched the mainnet 11 months ago, looking at the calendar right now, and we're off to the races now. So it feels like it's been a long time, and it's feels like it's happened really fast. A little bit of both.
I can't believe it's only been 11 months. It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, if you told me 11 months ago that Base would be like, far and away the largest L2 by users and developers and activity, I would have been like, no way, 0% chance. But I think it's been really incredible to see the response of the ecosystem. Incredible to see how many cool products people have built on chain. And I think from where I sit, it really feels like we're entering this next era. And the title of this talk is On-Chain Consumer, but that's really the era that it feels like we're entering, where it's like for the first time, we're having real on-chain consumer products being built that people want to just use because they're better than off-chain products. They're just better, they're funner, they're more rewarding, you earn more money, you can access them regardless of where you are in the world. And it's just so exciting to be at that kind of inflection point and to be helping contribute to the inflection point where we're actually starting to see that transformation happen.
So when you launched Base, or when Base was launched with your team, kind of curious how you all kind of got to the point where you decided, okay, we want to launch a network and we are going to make it successful and we're going to focus on this.
Yeah.
Because like even now, looking back 11 months ago, there were already kind of a decent number of L2s being launched, and now there's even more, obviously.
Yeah.
There's always this discussion of like, why launch another network? But I think in hindsight, like what you all have done is very differentiating, and it's obviously, successful. So there is obviously a big story to be made there, but I'm curious, like how you all decided to do this and what you all focus on and how that's played out versus how you wanted it to.
Yeah, and really like the story for us starts in late 2021 when I kind of stepped back from my previous role building all the consumer products and stepped into this new role of trying to figure out what it means to bring a business on chain. And we spent about a year iterating through different products. So, building on-chain products, writing smart contracts. We looked at doing some stuff with identity. We looked at doing some stuff with advertising. Looked at doing stuff with kind of like an app store marketplace. And all of the kind of things we were trying to build, the goal was to migrate Coinbase customers on chain. And I think as we were building those products, and this was 2022, the L2 space was still relatively nascent. 4844 was not live. It wasn't, it was just a twinkle in people's eyes. We were actually kind of there at the beginning in 2022 in like March, April, when Optimism and Ethereum Foundation researchers started working on it. And there was no real growth on L2s yet. They still had way less transactions than Ethereum. People were wondering, is this going to happen? And so I think for us, as we started building those products, what we felt was, we're running into, kind of all these challenges, right? We want to build this on-chain product, but like in order to serve the actual scale of Coinbase, like the technology needs to mature a ton. We need to drive down the data availability costs. We need to, make these networks much more stable. We need to make them much more decentralized. And then B, the user experience needs to improve a ton. Like, you can't access any of the L2s from Coinbase or from any of the other networks. Wallets don't support them. And so after about a year of kind of like trying to get those things to work, I think we had this insight, which was, there's going to be a bunch of these. We started to see they're still small. There's still only a handful, but it felt like there were going to be more. And then B, it really felt like if we put our best foot forward, where it's like, if we invested our resources in trying to accelerate that infrastructure and in trying to smooth out those user experiences, that could do a ton of good for us in terms of making really great customer experiences. And it could do a ton of good for the ecosystem in terms of making it so that the whole ecosystem gets accelerated. And so that was really the driver for us of building Base. It was kind of like eating our own dog food. It's like creating a platform that we wanted to use, that we loved, because we knew that if we did that, it would have all of these really powerful knock-on effects for the broader ecosystem. And I think that's what we've seen. The Base team was there from basically the beginning, accelerating 4844. I think as a result of our work, it shipped way faster than it otherwise would have. I think some of the work that we've been doing on smart wallets and accelerating smart wallets, for instance, yesterday we just launched EIP 7212 on Base, which dropped the cost of using smart wallets by like 80%. The new smart wallet that Coinbase launched, that was our team going and accelerating smart wallets inside of Coinbase. There's all of this work that, I think we can kind of uniquely identify, because we sit at this intersection of a chain working really closely with a like large scale consumer business, and then a ton of builders in the broader ecosystem. And we're able to kind of bridge that gap and figure out what do people actually need in order to not just kind of make experiences incrementally better, but make 10x kind of like step function changes in the ability for people to build world-class consumer products.
So I've noticed one thing. It's like every time I check out your Twitter feed or Base's Twitter feed, it's just like a nonstop flow of new teams building like new products. And it's no longer like, these ideas that are being tweeted out by these people. They're actually starting to actually build a lot of really, really cool stuff. And a lot of it's directly built on Base. A lot of it's integrating with Warpcast through Frames. So there's like a richer ecosystem of things that are happening. I'm just like wondering how you all, I guess, got to that point. Whereas a lot of teams are trying to kind of not copy that, but like that's where they want to be. Everyone wants to have all that activity. I'm just curious how you all got there. You've been a very large part of it, I think, because you're very vocal out there supporting all of these teams. And that's a discussion I want to get to in just a moment. That's almost like the DevRel thing. But aside from that, like in terms of the team, the technology, how did you all get to where you are today? And the success, I would say, almost you all.
I don't think there's it's still like very much day one. And that's the thing I tell my team every day. It's day one. Like we have, if you look at the numbers, you have like a few 100,000 people who are daily actives right now. If we want to get to the world on chain, that's 4 orders of magnitude. And so it's a lot. That's not orders of magnitude. And so it's very much day one. The job is not finished. We have a lot more work to do. I don't think there's one weird trick that kind of got us to where we are today. I think for us, the driving kind of inspiration has been, how do we make it easy for builders to create products that find product market fit? That's it. Period. I think a lot of other ecosystems are often more like, how do we, pay people to come and build? And like for us, that hasn't been the like key thing that we're driving. It's always been, how do we make it so that people build on Base because we help them find product market fit and we help them build incredible products. Period. And that's a really powerful forcing function. We haven't done big pay to play, partnerships. I actually just got off the phone with a large Fortune 500 company where we were having that conversation, and they were kind of saying, hey, we're weighing 7-figure, 8-figure grants from other people. Like, how are you thinking about this? And we told them what we tell everyone, which is like, we want to make you money by helping you find product market fit and by helping you use the technology to build incredible products that your customers love. And our thesis, which I think is starting to prove out, is that will be infinitely more valuable for making your business successful, for proving that on-chain is useful to your executives, than a grant, which is one time and doesn't ultimately lead to success. And so that ethos for us has been there from the beginning. I think one of the things that it comes from is, operating inside of a company that's had a very, very product-centric philosophy from the beginning. Like I got to watch Brian take that same ethos with the Coinbase products for 7 years, and so now we're kind of just applying that again, where it's like, how do we just make Base the best product that people choose because it's the best product, and how do we help them build the best products? And I think all of that is kind of combining to make the Base ecosystem what it is. And then of course we're also finding ways to fund people, but like even when we're trying to fund people, a lot of what we're trying to do is like, how do we make it so we fund people when they make an impact? And how do we make it so we have sustainable funding models that are recurring and repeatable? Great example of this is on Warpcast. We're now doing this /base-builds funding, where every week, if you just go into /base-builds and you say, this week I built, you will get funding. You will get funding. That's cool. Every week. And it won't be a ton of funding. Maybe it'll be $50 or $100 or $400, but it will be funding. And you can do that. You can get a sustainable source of funding. And then as you do that, you're basically building your reputation on chain, where you're saying, whoa, look, here's proof of work. The last 6 weeks, I shared something I built every week. I earned, $100 or $200 every week. And then when you say, okay, now here's this impact, you can make a grant for, Optimism Retroactive Public Goods funding, or our bigger builder grants program. And all of that can kind of combine to give you the resources you need to take it to the next level. And so really for us, it's all about how do we provide that infrastructure, but make sure that the work that we're doing and the ethos that we're setting is one of like, focus on product, focus on finding product market fit, focus on supporting builders to do that.
Yeah, it's a good point about the whole grants and the whole discussion about pay to play kind of, or, we want you to build here, so therefore we're going to give you this large amount of cash or whatever. And it's interesting because like, if you do take that, you're also stuck and tied to that ecosystem that you might not have gone and built on if you weren't taking that. And then once that money runs out, if you haven't found success, then you're kind of, out of luck, right? But if you have more of like a long-term vision and less of a short-term vision, maybe would be the better way to say that. But yeah, you end up kind of have ultimately the type of success that you want, which is, people using your app as opposed
people using your app, people loving your product, right? That's the only thing that matters, right? It's really the only thing that matters. And everything else is just noise. And it can be hard to filter out the noise, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, do people use and love your product? And are the teams you're working with helping you achieve that?
So yeah, I'm out here at ECC. There's like 400 side events going on. And it's obvious, like the most scarce resource right now for infrastructure projects is developers, like people actually building that. And I want to touch on like this whole DevRel type of discussion, because it's really unique to have you here to talk about this, because a lot of times people talk about developer relations and they hire like a DevRel team, and they have like these lists of who are like the best DevRel people, and they might overhire, underhire, but it's just this completely new category kind of that has sprung up over the last few years that's becoming of more and more importance. And I think like what you do is, you're not a DevRel person, obviously, but I think the work that you do is kind of like the ultimate form of DevRel. So like, I want to know, like, if you can give advice for DevRel people watching, or just teams watching, how to support people and encourage them. Because I think you kind of like do that very well, and you do it like very consistently.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's very kind. And I mean, I think one of the things that enables me to do this successfully is that I'm a developer. I was an engineer. I started building things my senior year of college. Senior year of high school. When I learned how to code, I like didn't know that existed before, and then I found out, oh wow, I can write code and build websites, and that was like off to the races. So I got to college, didn't want to go to class, just wanted to build apps. Dropped out of college, started a company, joined Coinbase. I didn't join Coinbase as a manager. I joined Coinbase as an engineer. I spent the first 3 months writing code, and then they were like, "You've managed people before. Can you like do this thing?" And I was like, "I guess so. Like, I'll figure it out." So I think being a developer and being someone who like has spent time writing code and spent time trying to find product market fit is really, really helpful. And I think like that's kind of the ethos that I bring to the Base team and to my role on the Base team. Is like, I'm the leader of Base, so I do all sorts of things, marketing and legal and business and product and engineering and DevRel. But at the end of the day, like, I think my most important role is that I'm like the first builder, and I'm the chief builder evangelist, constantly just trying to help other builders. my feeling is like the way to do that is to like not have the feeling that anything is beneath you or anything is too small. It's like every time I see something that someone builds on Base that's cool, I send them a message every single time. Like if I'm scrolling my Twitter feed and I see something that I think is cool, I send them a message. It's either a reply or it's a DM, but 100% of the time. And is that like hard sometimes? And like you have to go through your DMs. It's like, yeah, it's exhausting at times, but like people recognize it. And sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is not give people money or, like solve a specific problem for them. It's just make them feel seen. Literally make them feel seen and be like, oh, wow, someone took the time to see this cool thing that I built. And that is the energy that's going to let them build the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so that it's an ethos that I have. And it's an ethos that I've tried to instill in my team, which is like all of us are builders and we are the first builders in many ways. And it's our job to go bring the next builders. And so all of us both have to do our day-to-day job, but then we also have to do the other job, which is finding other incredible builders and bringing them onto Base.
That's an incredible thing to hear you say, because I don't really know if I've ever heard that advice in the DevRel space, but it's something that I haven't actually personally done a good job of, I don't think, is actually reaching out and actively engaging people building. Like I'll like their tweets, I'll respond to their tweets usually if they're talking about something, but like actually going the extra mile, sending them a DM, like, encouraging them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's so many people watching this this video who've gotten some derivative of me sending them a message, which is like, "This is sick." Like that's my like favorite thing. I just send people a link. I'm like, "This is sick."
Have you ever like converted someone from another network to like build on Base because of that engagement?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, like I mean. Other networks, sure. Also, people who are like not doing things on chain. I mean, it's not just even when people are just building on Base. If I see anything that someone is building, I usually send them a message. I'm like, this is sick. Especially if I have in my head, oh, this is how this could be like improved by using on-chain dynamics. I'm like constantly firing off messages being like, this is really cool. How can we help? This is really cool. Have you thought about doing this? This is really cool. Do you want to come build with us on Base? This is really cool. Have you connected with my team? Like I think my primary job is kind of like connecting dots a little bit, where it's like I see something out in the ecosystem, I have all this context that's in my head, and I can then be like, okay, if we put this together with this, or we give this person this support, or we give this person this kind of distribution or recognition, it's going to hit in a certain way. And it's kind of remarkable how oftentimes like that little piece of connection is all that's needed to take people to the next level. They don't need millions of dollars. They don't need, like a total transformation of their product or, or how they're working. They just need like a little connection that helps them get to the next step and then helps them take it kind of further from there.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that, because someone like you is very, well known, and you're also, very busy with your job and your work. And if someone kind of like sees that you notice them and reach out to them, it definitely means a lot to anyone, really. But much less someone that maybe hasn't really connected with that many people in the ecosystem.
Totally.
Having so well known and like with such good experience and stuff like that is really awesome. So I like that a lot. I'm gonna start using that. And then if you're watching and you're doing DevRel, that's probably like one of the best tips and pieces of alpha that's going to come out of this discussion.
And if you're a builder and you're creating cool things, always feel free to send them to me. I have had to close my DMs on Twitter because I got a lot of spam, but you can always DM me on Warpcast. My DMs are open on Warpcast. You can send me a message, send me the cool thing that you built, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to play around with it. That's the other thing that I do. It's like, it's not just that I like see something cool and then I play around and send people messages. It's like I do the thing, there's this thing on Base that launched yesterday called Brainworms. I don't know if you saw it, but it's like, it's a game. It's a game, I guess. It's very interesting. It's very mysterious too. And I spent like an hour last night just being like, okay, well, what is going on here? Like clicking buttons, like, I minted a worm. I battled my worm. There's a whole thing where you have to call a phone number. I called a phone number and it did a survey of me where it asked questions like, do you stay up at night thinking about the end of the world? And then it gave you like 3 answers and you had to pick one. It was a very strange experience, but very cool. And I think that that's another thing that I both really enjoy, and I think it ends up being really impactful, is just like using the products that people are building on chain so you can give them feedback, and so you can just get a better sense of like what is actually happening here.
Awesome. Yeah, I just looked it up and I think I found it. Is it from someone named Sterling?
Let me find it. It's Brainworms by they just launched it yesterday. It's like it's coming from like corporation. I'm trying to remember what corporation launched it. Yeah, it's Sterling who just open sourced it,
Cool.
and it's Dell Complex. I tried to become like a Dell like there's a whole thing where if you go to dellcomplex.com, you can claim a staff token. You have to go through this whole phone experience. It's very like this is art. It's art. It's a game. It's art. It's like contemporary art. It's very cool.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the Twitter chat as a comment, and it's gonna be a link to the Warpcast. So
yeah, tell people to check out Brainworms. And there's a cool game. It's like really it's very slick, really well built, very like real substantive game with I think a lot of strategy and lore and dynamics, which I have not yet fully understood, but I'm excited to dig deeper.
So let's touch on Warpcast and Forecaster for a moment. It's very synergistic, like what happened with Frames. I think it got me building on Base for the first time, and I'm wondering if it got a lot of other people building on Base for the first time.
Definitely did.
But, so like, what do you feel like is the relationship between Forecaster and Warpcast and Base? Because I know that like the founder also came out of Coinbase, and I've noticed like a similar like vibe in terms of your approach to building, maybe because of maybe the experience working there, maybe that's just the type of people they are. But yeah, just curious your general thoughts on all of that, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, Varun, who's the kind of like technical co-founder at Warpcast and Forecaster, he hired me, and he was my manager for a long time. And then Dan, who is Dan Romero, who's kind of like non-technical leader. Me and him were partners for a long time. So when I was running engineering for the consumer business, he was GM. And so we worked really closely together as well. And so tons of history. I mean, I've known Varun and Dan, have been working with them for almost a decade at this point. And so I think there is an ethos, right? Like it's not a coincidence that you see similar mentality around finding product market fit, relentless focus on builders from both Base and Forecaster. It's because we grew up in many ways in the same part of the ecosystem. We got to see Brian be an incredible leader at Coinbase and have such strong product thinking there. And then I think we also got to see crypto mature and got to figure out how do we want to be a part of it and have so many conversations and dialogues about that. So I think there is a lot of overlap. Base and Forecaster have no official relationship. Like we don't have a partnership. We haven't signed any deals. Like there's not. The Forecaster identity contracts are actually not deployed on Base. They're deployed on OP mainnet. But I think I've been a long-time user of Forecaster. I was at user number 99, so I've FID 99. Casting for a long time, and then I think particularly when we saw when the launch of Frames happened, it was a Friday, and I saw the launch of Frames. We didn't tell us, like we didn't have an early heads up or anything. I just saw it, go on Warpcast, and I messaged my team and I said we need to drop everything and figure out how to support developers building Frames, because for me, I saw it. I was like, oh my god, this is like real consumer app distribution for on-chain native products. Like we can do things for the first time that were never before possible. And we dropped everything. We launched a grants program like 3 hours later, Friday afternoon. We worked the whole weekend. We launched Onchain Kit, which was a toolkit for helping people build Frames, which is now, way more, to help you build any sort of on-chain app. We hosted hackathons. Like literally our team worked for the next 21 days straight, just figuring out how do we help people build Frames and how do we make that really, really easy. And what it led to was people just started building on Base by default with Frames. And so, now if you look, I think like 75% of all the transactions driven by Forecaster are happening on Base. The vast majority of the Forecaster economy is on Base. And that's not, again, there's no formal partnership. There's no, Forecaster or Warpcast driving people to Base. It's just that we said we believe in builders from Forecaster, and we want to make it as easy as possible for them to build on Base, because obviously that's good for Base, but also it's just good because they're going to be able to build more cool things, more cool consumer products. And that is just good because we need more real useful consumer products for the world if we actually want to make on-chain a thing.
Yeah, it's basically a result of like you all noticing an opportunity and taking immediate action and working hard and focusing on that.
Yeah, and it's compounding. I mean, like now the Base channel is the largest channel on Forecaster. I mean, I was looking, we have 370,000 people in the Base channel on Forecaster. Like, you know, I have so much reach and distribution on Forecaster. You know, there's all these builders who are constantly creating and sharing. And, you know, the other day, like 4 weeks ago, I tweeted or I casted, I was like, hey, I would really like to see people create language channels so that people can talk about Base in other languages. There's like 45 language channels now for Base, where it's like Base French, Base German, Base, you know, whatever. You pick your language, Japanese, Chinese, that are active, that have communities, that have hosts, that are like building. And we are really, I think, trying to find, it's where so much of our community and ecosystem lives. It's really powerful. We love Forecaster.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Forecaster too. Big fan of.
And it also is so useful because there's all this infrastructure being built on Forecaster. So like this Base builds thing, that is Forecaster plus rounds, where it's like now this is the most efficient grant program we've ever run. We don't do anything.
Tell us about it a little bit more about the grant program.
So you can go here. You can share this link every week from Friday. It's a weekend activity from Friday to Sunday. You can go to /Base Builds, which is a channel. Anyone can join it. And you can just post this week I built and then share what you built. And depending on how many people engage with it and like it, you know, you'll have natural social curation. You're going to get a reward. And so like you can click into it and you can see like last week was kind of an off week because, you know, July 4th. But last week we had 86 different people post 105 different things, and all of them got rewarded. So the top person got 0.04 ETH, 0.0469 times 3,000. So that's like whatever. It's $140. So it's not a ton of money, but like particularly if you're not in the US, it's also not nothing. And it's accessible to anyone, and there's no gatekeeping. And I think importantly for us, we are not going in and like having to review every single thing. Instead, there's a social graph that's curating and saying, hey, these things are good, these things are good, these things are good. And that's kind of naturally creating filtering and then that naturally creating rewards. And it's creating social content. That's incredible that I get to interact with it and I get to actually see, oh, here's what cool things people are building. I mean, it's literally my favorite thing to do on the weekends is to scroll the Base Builds new thing and retweet and like the things I like. I almost don't even want to be saying this on this video because I feel like it's the biggest unkept secret, you know, it's the biggest secret we have. It's like, it's like one weird trick, like don't run centralized grants programs. Instead, use on-chain tools to reward builders when they create things and share them with the world.
How much money like total is given away? Is it a fixed amount?
It's 2 ETH a week right now.
2 ETH per week, okay.
Yeah, so it's just a 2 ETH per week that gets divided between builders. So 2 ETH divided between 86 people.
So it's about, what is that, 400K a year or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
A range. Okay, very cool. And it's probably a 10 times or maybe 100 times or 1,000 times more efficient than maybe an in-person.
Oh yeah, I mean this is far and away the most efficient grants program we've ever done. Like
awesome,
by far. And we're doing it we're experimenting with the mechanism with other audiences as well. Like last week, we were all off, and so we did this Touch Grass campaign where we told people like post on Forecaster or post on Zora, Moshi, or Dracula, and then share a link in Base Creators and earn a portion of 4 ETH. And so that just got people posting in on-chain social products and sharing kind of like what did they do in their week off around the July 4th holiday. And it was awesome. I think we had like 500 posts or 500 like different pieces of social content. We were able to create really cool like montages of all of it. So, you know, it's infrastructure. It's on-chain infrastructure that allows us to actually leverage the technology to accomplish what we're trying to do.
Very, very good. Very cool. And this has been all really, really helpful and exciting for me as a DevRel person and just in general, like learning more about Base. It gave me the opportunity to sit down and basically pick your brain. So hopefully it's a win-win situation for everyone also watching. But yeah, so before we wrap it up, I guess in terms of the consumer side of this, we talked about this a bit. And like when people talk about consumer crypto, are they just talking about apps that are being built like B2C? Is that what we're saying? Or is there like a specific?
That's all it is. I mean, we've like internally at Base and I've been working on Coinbase. Like we've killed the word dApps. We don't use the word dApps anymore. It's a bad word. It's just apps, everybody. These are just apps. We're just building apps, and
we're finding like new ways to like say apps.
They're just apps, and we're just using new technology to build apps. And those apps will be compared by everyday people versus the apps that are built on the off-chain platform. And the only way we will be successful is if we build better apps, period. Only way. There's no cheat codes. Can't cheat. Build better apps, period.
Yes. Grind. Look at the track record, I think, of what Forecaster and Warpcast like achieved. It hasn't been overnight, but they've focused on one thing and they've built a really high quality product. And sometimes, it takes a lot of time and effort, but
it takes years.
Yeah, it takes years.
And it's still day one. We're not even close.
I'm the same way. I kind of like wake up every morning because like sometimes when you join a company or you start focusing on something, you're very excited about it on day one, right? But a year goes by, 6 months go by, you get burnt out, and you forget that excitement that you had on day one. So reminding yourself that is like I love that. I mean, we did that at AWS. It was a thing, like, but also it's just kind of like
that's where we stole it from, Jeff. Still day one.
This has been really great. So is there any closing things that you want to mention for people to find you or to
Yeah, I mean, it's Onchain Summer, everyone. So go build some cool stuff this summer. If you want to get funding for it, you can go post in /base builds every week and you'll get funding. There's a ton of retroactive funding that's coming. There's more hackathons coming. Super Hack is coming in about a month, which will be the whole super chain coming together to hack during Onchain Summer. If you have cool things that you build, you can submit them to base.org/registry, base.org/registry. And we're starting to distribute all those things across a bunch of different services. So Coinbase Wallet just launched a totally new product on the web that's like kind of distributing everything from the registry. And then I think we're going to have like 5 or 6 other big consumer interfaces integrate the registry. So that's a great way if you have an app or a game or a piece of content that you create, you submit it to that registry and it'll automatically get distribution. And so our goal this summer is to help builders build incredible products, and then to help those products get in front of as many users as possible. That's it. And Amazing. So we'd love to build with you this summer.
Well, if you missed any of these links, I've posted them all in the Twitter thread. This will also go on YouTube, and I'm going to post all of the links there on YouTube. So thank you, Jesse, for your time. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on the wedding and being back now. And on
Thanks
all
for having me.